This is Chris Carlson, and welcome to the Boulder Banking Podcast. My guest is Tanya Mims, Community President at First National Bank of Northwest Arkansas. In addition to her day job, Tanya serves as a Fair Housing Commissioner, an appointed position in the state of Arkansas. I know you will love this episode as we discuss both the benefits and the challenges of public service. Tanya, I really appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to join us today. And excited about our conversation. But before we get started, can you give us a brief background of Tanya Mims?
You bet. I have been in Northwest Arkansas since I came to college here in 1989. I graduated from the University of Arkansas at Fayetteville with a degree in finance in 93 and have been working in this industry and in Fayetteville since then. I'm married, 25 years in just a few months. And I have two teenage boys that are 16 and 22, and two beautiful Australian shepherds as well.
Oh, Aussies. What a great dogs. What a great
They
breed.
are.
So should we do a pig suey real quick? Or we'll?
Oh, my goodness. How do you know about that?
Everybody knows about that.
Really?
Now, are your sons going to follow you in the tradition of becoming a hog?
Oh, I pray so. I'm actually working on building a house that's 4 minutes from gate one, and I'm going to make it worth my youngest son's while to make that choice.
Well, at the time of us recording this podcast, you guys came off a very tough loss. That's a game you should not have lost.
Oh, thank you. I know.
Well, we'll see what happens here. And they got some tough games ahead.
We do.
But we could probably talk the entire time about Arkansas athletics because you have a great college men's basketball team as well that I know you're excited about. But having said that, why don't you tell us about your current role at First National Bank of Northwest Arkansas?
Sure. My role includes oversight in the areas of lending, retail marketing, some operations and facilities in the Fayetteville market specifically. I also originate some commercial and some mortgage and a tiny bit of consumer occasionally.
That's a wide swath of things you're responsible for. So I'm sure that keeps you more than busy.
Yes, sir.
Now, so Tanya, what we're doing over the next few episodes of the Boulder Banking Podcast is talk to bankers who have gotten involved in servicing their community. And you currently are servicing on the Arkansas Fair Housing as a Arkansas Fair Housing Commissioner. How did you come to get into that role?
My husband chairs the board of Arkansas Development Finance Authority and travels to Little Rock once a month for those meetings. And on one of those trips, there was a gentleman in the governor's office that asked if I would be interested in serving. I assume it was because of my number of years of experience, also volume that goes with that number of years of experience in lending, which, gave me a really good understanding and background on fair housing laws in our state. And so my husband and I talked about it to see if, from a time commitment standpoint, if we felt like I could take that on. And I was interested and he was supportive. And so then he let them know that I would be interested. And then I think the next step was that I had to fill out some extensive paperwork and background checks and financial statements. And then several months passed and I got busy and really forgot about it. And then one day I got a call from the governor's office and they said that they had appointed me as a commissioner.
Well, what are your duties as a commissioner?
The primary duties are that we receive complaints, we investigate complaints, and we resolve those alleged violations that are against Arkansas fair housing laws, which prohibit discrimination based on the basis of race, color, national origin, religion, sex, familial status, disability. And then I would say next most important is we cooperate with federal, state, and local authorities to help form and operate the programs to eliminate discriminatory practices. And then the probably lightest of those three would be, and I mean from a time commitment, would be education and outreach programs to help accomplish that mission of the commission.
So how long is the appointment for?
That's a good question, Chris. I think it's 3 years. I'm pretty sure it's 3 years. The minimum is 2.
For people who've come before you, does it tend to be you serve one term and then you move on, or do people get nominated for additional terms?
It does seem to be, from what I've experienced so far, that the ones that are on there have been on there quite a while and are staying on. And if I were asked to do it again at this moment in time, I would continue.
Okay, great. Well, let me ask you this. What challenges does serving in public office have on your current role, as a community president for Fayetteville?
Definitely the biggest challenge is the time commitment. Our state capital is 3 hours away. And initially, all of our meetings were in person. So that was a very long day away from work. And so, just playing catch up, I think, was the biggest sacrifice, you might say. Now, during COVID, they got more lenient and we had more Zoom meetings. And so that got much easier. But the pressure is mounting to start doing that in person a little more. And I do understand, especially when we have those hearings and you're listening to attorneys on either side. And I do agree that you're probably going to do a better job in person and have less distractions. And so I do understand, but that is the biggest pressure and challenge. Let's see, the other would be the perception that you're tied to a specific political party. So let's say it's an elected position, and you've got to put down what party you're with. And then even if it's not an elected position, if it's appointed, then there's an assumption that the governor wouldn't appoint you if you weren't affiliated with that specific party. And so, that does risk alienating 50% of your customers.
Experienced any of that? Has anybody given you any feedback or grief regarding, again, I think if I'm not mistaken, Asa is a Republican, right?
And no, I have not. I am a little surprised by that. But no, sir, I haven't dealt with that.
Good. And again, you're coming of it from a position of service, not trying to climb the political ladder, if you will.
Absolutely.
So you shouldn't get any blowback.
Thank you.
Well, so one of the questions I always think about is, what opportunities are created by you doing this, or you going above and beyond? Does it create any opportunities from a business standpoint, either in the near term or the long term?
I definitely feel like it's given me some opportunities to meet new people in my area, in my region, also in the state, which obviously meeting new people means growing your network and your connections. That's definitely been a benefit. I've also had the opportunity to grow some connections that I already had in a deeper way. I can think of some examples where there have been people in my community that I didn't know that well that reached out and wanted to talk about some things that were going on with the commission, or suggestions they had for ideas that would help, specifically in this case, integrate communities. And so getting the opportunity to meet with them really helped me deepen those relationships and those contacts. And I passionately feel like that was helpful and a benefit.
Well, what advice would you give to any banker who's considering serving, either appointed or elected?
I would say, especially in talking to community bankers, that's who we are. That's what sets us apart and makes us different. And so to me, it should be an expectation and a requirement that you serve your community in some impactful way. It doesn't have to be on a state level or national level, but it should be something very impactful to your community and something that you're giving back to, and that your customers know that you care. It's you think about It's a Wonderful Life, and those examples of bankers through time that gave back. And in my specific case, I'm working for a bank that's one of the oldest in the state and has been through those challenging years where you have to do what it takes at times to help your community through floods and natural disasters and depressions and all those things.
Exactly. Well, let me take a step back and ask you a couple questions more on a global view of banking. What excites you most about the future of community banking?
Right now, I think today my answer would be, in light of the fact that this feels like we're growing more and more into a more global economy, that is more fun, more interesting, and providing more opportunities. An example I had this past week, which makes my job more fun, but I had this meeting with a customer in person that, as we talked about, I'm in Arkansas, but he's from the Colorado area and lives there. And he's had several not pleasant experiences with larger banks in his area. And he's invested in our area and has done some loans with us, and now has moved his personal relationships to us, not just those business operating accounts, but his personal accounts. And I'm getting the opportunity to meet and become friends with him and have this impactful relationship with him in Colorado. And he comes by, he gets to see my office. It was fun. And that's something that 20 years ago, I would have never imagined. Back then, the loans I did were Fayetteville, Arkansas, and that's been slowly growing to where it's not just Fayetteville, it's our region, to the northwest Arkansas. And then it just keeps getting bigger and bigger, and I like it.
So let me ask you this: when you talk about, geographical reach, if you will, does that change the community in community banking if we go national or we go, larger geographic areas?
It sure does. It sure does. When I think of my community, I still think of Fayetteville, where I've been, but I think that that's going to start putting pressure on us to expand that.
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. Well, let me do a 180 on you and ask you this question: what scares you most about the future of community banking?
What concerns me most is that we have been the bedrock of our community. And what if our customers forget that? And what if they start looking at our online competitors that, beat us by an eighth of a point, or $200 fee or something, and they forget what we do and what we've done for so long and choose, a slightly lower price? That concerns me. I hope that doesn't happen.
You bring up a great point, and the first thing that pops into my mind is Amazon versus the local community store in small town Arkansas. And all those years that small town store served that community, and basically the community, right, has turned to Amazon at the detriment and sometimes the death of the store, the local community store. Could it happen to community banking, or is community banking so much more entrenched that the fintechs can't do that?
Sure, it could. I just think we have to be really good about reminding them what we're doing differently, and our role in PPP, our role in these community service projects that we do, and everything that we're doing differently than they are. I think we've just got to continue to market that and hope that it is appreciated like we expect that it would be.
Okay, so I got a crazy question to close our conversation today. If we were to go back in time, those 25 years ago when you were getting started in banking, knowing what you know now, what would you tell Tanya 25 years ago about community banking?
I would definitely tell her to expand her goals, her thinking about what the future is going to look like. It's definitely much bigger than I expected it to be. And then what I mean by that is in every single area, in technology, in your customer base, in the things that we can do, in the volume. The things I used to think were good and amazing are now no longer good and amazing. So I would say every single thing I need to expand the bigger thinking.
Bigger, bolder thinking. I love that. Well, Tanya, you shared some great ideas. If any of our listeners want to reach out to you, whether it's about what your current role is or what you're doing in terms of public service, what's the best way for them to contact you?
I work at First National Bank of NWA in Fayetteville, Arkansas, and they can email me at Tanya Mims at fnbnwa.com. I'm on LinkedIn and other social media, so love to hear from anybody.
That's awesome. Well, Tanya, obviously you have a lot going on. I really appreciate you taking time out of your schedule to visit with us today. Thank you very much.
It was fun to talk to you again, Chris. I enjoyed being in your class.
Great. Now, have a great day.
Thank you.